Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Morris. I'm the Director of Business Development for Gaming for GTS Distribution, and we're here with another one of our retailer to publisher webinars. This time we are joined by the handsome and dashing Tom Ryan from Looney Labs. Tom is going to be talking to us about a couple of new releases. One is called Are You a Robot? And the other is Jumanji Fluxx. Unless you've been under a rather large rock, you probably have heard of Fluxx before. It is one of the longest running I guess, would you call it an episodic game? Maybe not. I don't know. There's so many different versions of Fluxx that pretty much any.
I would definitely call it a gateway game. It's
Gateway,
one of
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
a lot of people play, and it's been around for about 23 years.
Fluxx was actually the first game my youngest child ever played. So he played Pirate Fluxx, and he thought it was the coolest thing ever at 5 years old because he could just sit there and yar and just yell and throw that stuff. So it was really neat. But we're going to talk about both Jumanji Fluxx, which is very opportunely timed, and Tom will probably bring this up as well, but there is a new movie coming out for Jumanji 2, so it's perfectly timed for that. And there's a really cool kind of social deduction game that we're going to talk about called Are You a Robot? Looney Labs has a very, very broad catalog with a lot of things in it that we'll probably touch on at different points during the conversation as well. But like I always like to remind everybody, everything is on the table, pardon the pun, but you're able to ask any kind of questions you'd like to. If you do want to ask any questions, just hover over your window and there's a little chat bubble at the bottom. You can pull up a chat window. Tom, you don't have to worry about messing around with that. I'll monitor that, make sure everything's okay. For everyone who is a panelist and attendee, though, when you do type in a chat, you can choose to either send it to just the panelists, which are myself, Jessica Kalansky, our sales director, and then Tom, or you can send it to all attendees as well so that everyone sees your question. Anything you got, how many are in a case, demos, things like that, anything you got, let us know. We'll be happy to answer it. So, Tom, with that, I will let you take over, and I promise I won't change your green screen to make it look like you're in Hawaii or anything behind you. So
You can actually send me to Hawaii. That'd be great. But
I'm trying to get there myself. So.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming to hang out with Looney Labs. You might not know me. My name is Tom. I've been with the company for about a year. And before that, I was a retailer myself. I helped open and manage a game store in Annapolis, Maryland called Third Eye Games that spun off from a comic shop called Third Eye Comics. So I'm here to help you guys learn a little bit more about our new stuff and share with you some of the things that I've learned and some of the things that we've been working on in the past year. So as Scott said, you probably know us as the people who make Fluxx. One of the ones we put out this year was Star Trek DS9 Fluxx. This one is the latest in our Star Trek series. But aside from Fluxx, we make a lot of other games. And I wanted to first talk to you a little bit about Looney Labs as a whole, as a brand, and what our games have in common. If you don't already know, one of the things that really separates us from a lot of other publishers is that all of our games, everything that we put out, is all made by Andy Looney himself. He is the one that designs all the different Fluxx games, all the non-Fluxx games. It's all him. And what that means is there's a lot of similarities between our games, a lot of connective tissue that lets you talk about all the games even if you haven't played them or aren't familiar with them. There's a couple things that I like to run down whenever I'm talking about our games, whether it's Fluxx or, Just Desserts is one of our fan favorites. Timebreaker came out early this year. It's my personal favorite, even more so than Marvel Fluxx, even though I'm a huge Marvel fan. But the idea is that all of these games are easy to learn. I'm sure you've heard that. Anyone that's played Fluxx knows how easy it is to learn. This is the sort of game that after a couple turns, maybe halfway through the game, if not sooner, you know how to play the game. And something like Fluxx is, of course, always changing. And when you explain it that way, some people sort of get intimidated by that. But it's really easy to say, no, don't worry, we'll try it out a few rounds and you'll be able to figure out how it goes really quickly. And the same goes for all of our other games. Timebreaker can be explained in very much the same way that Fluxx is. Here's the couple different card types and here's what they do. On your turn, you're going to draw a card and play a card. That's, the short version of the mechanics for Timebreaker, and that's one of the things that makes the games easy to pitch. Anyone that's ever heard of Fluxx, anyone that's ever played Fluxx, it's easy to say, hey, I don't know if you know this, but the guys that make Fluxx, Looney Labs, they put out a new time travel game, and it's totally different. It's got tiles and meeples, and the artwork is gorgeous, and it feels a lot the same, even though it's a totally new game. I don't know how many times I actually sold. This was when, before I joined the company, Get the MacGuffin was the hot new thing. And it's just, hey, the people that make Fluxx put out a new game and it's only $10. Sometimes that's all you have to say. And, you know, anyone that has played our games knows that they're going to be getting something that's easy to learn, quick to play. Like, you know, most of our games are 5 to 25 minutes tops. Like if you get a really crazy game of Fluxx, it might be closer to that 25 end, but almost all of them fall into that range. Andy himself really likes those shorter games. He actually is in the habit of playing multiple games at once. So that's something that you'll find in our games too, is they're always small and portable. This is something you can take to a restaurant and sit down at a table and play it before your food even arrives. I do that actually with Timebreaker all the time. My girlfriend and I take this to restaurants, and she always wins, but I don't say that unless she's not around. So she absolutely kicks my butt. But aside from that, you'll see that our games are also truly all ages. Something that I talk to teachers, for example, and talk to them about how they can use our games in the classroom and how easy it is for kids to pick up. And they go, oh, that's nice, but they're sort of surprised when I say, oh yeah, I play these games with my friends all the time. They're not kids games, but they're games that are easy enough for kids to play. They're not adult games, although we do have, Stoner Fluxx and Drinking Fluxx, but so don't play those with kids, but they're truly all ages games. Everyone has something that they can like in our games. And it's just something I wanted to share with you in case you didn't know. A lot of our other publishers, you don't have that same sort of connective tissue. I've gone to pick up games like, oh yeah, I like this one from them, and it's a totally different game. And that's not unusual. In fact, we are the unusual ones that have all of our stuff being so similar. But as far as the games as games, let me tell you a little bit about the games as a product line, how you actually are going to be interacting with these on your shelf and with your customers. So let's start with on the shelf, actually, because one of the things I'm sure a lot of you guys already know is that these games really help sell themselves. A lot of, anything that's a Fluxx, is going to be a strong seller. Anyone that's ever played Fluxx or seen Fluxx, you can say, oh, hey, here's a new Fluxx with a new flavor. You're going to love it. And there's always cool new stuff in each Fluxx. There's always new rules or new actions, usually both, that do all kinds of cool things. I'm going to show you some of those from Jumanji. So I don't want to talk too much about that. But these are games that go together. The packaging, even though like things like Timebreaker, they're in a bit bigger box, they're designed to go in the same display. These, you're used to seeing your Fluxxes come in a 6-pack, so you get 6 of them in a display with all of the artwork on the outside for that game. And that's always the best way, I think, to display that game, even if you're not filling it up. So that's always got 6, even if it's got 2 or 3 or 4 of them in there. Having that display with it really helps sell the game. It's got a lot more punch to it. And things like Timebreaker and Chrono Trek, which came out this year. This one's also the same size box. These are 4 in a display instead of 6. So something to keep in mind. These new games that came out this year do have a display, but they are a little bit different. If you order 6 of them, you're going to get a full display of 4 and 2 other ones, just so you know. But it's best from my personal experience, what I've learned talking to even more retailers, it's best to keep the games together in their own section. If you have them all lined up next to each other in their displays, or some people even have them on a shelf face out or spine out, like this. And as long as they're together, the similar box design shows customers that these games go together, and that helps you say, oh yeah, they're all made by the same person. If you like this one, you'll also like this one. The other really, really strong place that our games sell are at the counter. They're priced for impulse. There's something that you can say right off the bat. Someone comes up to your counter, they're ready to check out, and they see Doctor Who Fluxx right there, and like, oh my God, I love Doctor Who. I've got to get that. And they just pick it up and will add it to their stack. I've seen it happen all kinds of times before. And if you sell Doctor Who stuff, you know how obsessed some of those fans are, and that's not a stretch. But they're all in that, $20, $15 price range. Things like get the MacGuffin, which are only $10. This is a really great one. This is one of the ones we gave a hang tab to, so you can put it in that front area. Some of our retailers have a little spinner where they've put all of our games right up front together near the register so that they can kind of get the best of both worlds. But
One of the things I was going to jump in with, Tom, is that when I travel around and do a lot of different shows, I always make time to go to a retailer. I have this weird superstition that I have to buy something from a retailer wherever I go, which I think is fun, but it's really cool because I get to see the stores and see what everyone does and merchandise.
I'm the same way.
I literally cannot remember the last time I went to a retailer anywhere, whether it was big metropolitan area or little out of the nowhere kind of place. I don't ever remember walking in and not seeing at least some type of Fluxx right next to the register. Whether it's a POP display they have, whether it's a small shelf that they have right there. Some of them have quite a bit. You'll see Pirate Fluxx, Fluxx 5.0, things like that kind of lined up in there. But like you said, it's such a good, easy addition to almost any purchase where you're like $10, $15, things like that. Especially at this time of year when we're starting to get the foot traffic from the holiday and the people who may not have always come into the game store or may never come into the game store and they're just looking for like those stocking stuffers or the last minute holiday purchases or just my kids are into gaming. I'm not sure what to get them. Like that's the perfect thing to have right there because then you're not having to turn around going, yeah, if you go back to the fifth aisle over there and make a boom, right here, everything's available for you. So that's where I've seen retailers really have the most success with the stuff for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned like stocking stuffers and things because especially as we get into the holidays, our games are perfect for that price point. It's really easy to set up a little table display where you've got a bunch of these. Maybe they're in their POP displays. Maybe you've got some of them open. Something, again, like Time Breaker is beautiful if you break it out of the box and show off those tiles and pawns and stuff. And they're all in that $20 price range that's perfect for not just stocking stuffers, but gift exchanges. If you ever have people coming in that are doing white elephant gift exchanges for their office, and they're like, well, I want to get something fun, but I don't know if they like games, or I don't know if they're into this or that. I mean, there's so many different flavors of Fluxx that it's easy to find something that you can, like, I don't know if they're maybe like a Doctor Who fan, but I know they're definitely into some sort of sci-fi. Let me just get Star Fluxx because that has a little bit of everything in there,
You brought up a very good point too. All of your games, whether it's Time Breaker or Fluxx or any of the games, are tremendously easy to demo. They're super simple to set up on a demo table. They're super easy for not just for retailers and their staff to actually demo them, but they're actually pretty intuitive in terms of like if you just walk up to a demo table and someone may not be there at that exact moment and everything. Looney Labs actually has a great demo program that essentially, if you're a retailer and you want a demo of any of their games, excuse me, just contact your GTS sales rep. We will either have it in stock or we will get it in stock because Looney Labs offers us free copies of the games to give out as demos as well. I'm 99.9% sure that everything we have stock of right now, we have demo copies available. But if for any reason your local warehouse doesn't have it, let us know, let your GTS sales rep know. We will get them for you and we will get those out because they are games that will sell themselves if you have them on a demo table just from the quick point of, oh, wow, I can learn how to play this quickly. I could teach all my friends and it's only $20. Like that's good stuff.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, especially with Fluxx, everything that you need to do is pretty much is laid out on the cards. And that's the same with a lot of our other games. Time Breaker is a lot like that. It makes the explanations really easy. And we've put a lot of thought into making sure that when you pick up our games to sell to someone, we've made it easy for you to sell it off the back of the box. You can sort of see here that we've laid out, this is how I demo it myself too. You've got your goal. This is how you win using the keepers that it shows on the goal, and then these are the other different card types, and this is what they do. And we want to design the box so you could literally do that while you're talking to someone on the sales floor. That was my go-to. I don't know how many times I would pick up a box of a game and I'd say, oh, cool, here's this game, check out this beautiful game, here's how it works. And I turn it over to the back and I'm pointing at nothing. It's just like a big, there's artwork or there's nothing that explains any of these things that I'm trying to point out to them about how cool this game is or how it works, So with that in mind, we have made sure Time Breaker doesn't follow that same Fluxx formula, but it does show you, here's what the game is about, right on the back of the box. And we do have demo copies for everything. Marvel and Jumanji demos are available now as well. They were a little bit later coming out because of the way that we made those games, but those are available now. So if you've been waiting for your demo copies of those, GTS, I believe, has them on hand now, unless they've already sold all of them. But like Scott said, they'll be able to get you guys everything that you need for demoing all of the games. If you have a demo library where people can play these games and hang out, you definitely want to have some of them on there, because like I said, once they get hooked on one of our games, you'd say, oh yeah, did you know that they've got this game? And they've got, I mean, not just plenty of other flavors of Fluxx, which they will absolutely eat up, but a lot of other really cool, non-Fluxx games. Andy always jokes that all of his other games, sort of hate Fluxx because it steals the spotlight. But I always like, using that as an opportunity to shine the light on some of the other games that we have as well.
We mentioned earlier about Jumanji 2 coming out being the perfect time to kind of stock Jumanji. There's also the Picard series that CBS is doing about Jean-Luc Picard, which is more than likely going to do a massive influx of pop culture for Star Trek as well. So any of the Star Trek fluxes are good to carry at that time too.
Yeah, we have a pretty serious Star Trek line now. We already came out with the original series and the Next Generation Fluxx, so your Picard fans will want that Next Generation one. I've been talking a lot about DS9, but I want to just for a second show off Chrono Trek, because for your hardcore Star Trek fans especially, I imagine that's going to be most of that audience that's watching the Picard series. I mean, I know that's me. That's why I'm going to be watching it. This has literally all of Star Trek history in there. You're literally in this one messing up the timeline in order to restore your own timeline for whatever your character is given. So, Picard's in here. I'm a Voyager fan, so I'm really looking forward to Star Trek Voyager Fluxx, which is going to be happening sometime next year. But in here, you get a little sneak peek of Janeway, of course, but older Janeway features in here as well, because it's one of those crazy time travel stories that we saw from the finale of Voyager. And pretty much every card in here is a reference to something. Every single bit of Star Trek time travel shenanigans is in here somewhere. So, and this is another one that requires a little bit more of a demo. So if you get this and you put it on your demo table, you can put this timeline out. That's an integral part of the game, and you can learn how to play it really easily from the rules. And I'm hoping to do a video on it soon, but this is something that people will stop and go, oh my God, what's this? Oh, this is all Star Trek stuff. Oh, I love it. And it's going to be great for those people coming in from Picard. All right. Let me talk a little bit about Jumanji Fluxx now. We've sort of been waiting to get around to this. I wanted to share some more stuff with you guys, but Jumanji Fluxx is going to be one of our highlights for today. This, as you can see right off the bat, different box size than our other stuff. If you haven't seen this already, it is a bigger box. It doesn't come in a display, so it's not going to have the same POP display that we've been talking about, but it's got the same price point. It's still $20 compared to the other licensed Fluxx games you guys have. So you can still sell this alongside the Star Trek Fluxx, the Doctor Who Fluxx. It's the same price point, and it's got a really cool coin. It's kind of hard to see on here, but I'm going to open this up and show you some of the cool things that are inside. So we'll get to the coin, but right off the bat, when you open this up, the first thing that you're going to see is this little package of cards that's on top. These are shrink wrapped individually, and these are the special bonus cards for the specialty edition. All the ones that you guys are getting in the hobby game stores are going to have these exclusive cards. So right off the top, you see these are for you guys and your audience. And as you get into the game, I'm going to show you some of the cool new stuff that's in here. If you know Fluxx, you already know that it's rules changing constantly. Get the keepers you need in order to match the goal, and constantly go through new actions, new rules, new goals. So obviously you start off with your draw one, play one, but we've got some cool new stuff going on in here too, which is of course all mixed up from before.
That's cool to know that there are exclusives though in there that are for the hobby stores, because that I didn't even know that. So that's really good to know, because
yeah, that's one of the things that we wanted to make sure is very clear. It's on the front of the box. So you guys will be seeing those copies in store, and that's how you know that you've got the cool version, basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So in here, we've got a few more things. Right on the top, you see the extra victory requirement. This is a super fun meta rule. In order to win Jumanji, you have to say Jumanji. So you can match the goal and be all excited about how much you won, but until you say Jumanji, it doesn't count. And there's another way to win. This is something that's totally unique to Jumanji Fluxx. Introduced a whole new mechanic that is an elimination mechanic. So in that, you have these cards that are danger cards. So let me do this. These cards eliminate whoever has the keeper on them. So this one is for the giant bugs. So if I play this card, it works like an action card. I play this, and whoever has the giant bugs keeper in front of them gets eliminated from the game. And if you've ever played Fluxx, especially at like a convention or something, you know that it's really easy to jump in and out of. It's always sort of designed so that anyone can walk up to the table, draw 3 new cards, and jump into the game. Or if someone has to leave, that's okay. They can sort of, you know, exit peacefully. There's no disruption to the game. So when you get eliminated in Jumanji Fluxx, it works pretty much the same way. You get eliminated, but as long as it goes around and you miss one turn, like if you're lucky or unlucky enough for the person before you to eliminate you, then that turn gets skipped and you just have to wait around until it comes back to you again. And you can jump in like a new player. You draw your 3 new cards, you observe whatever draw and play rules are in play, and you're back in. So some people don't like elimination games, and that's totally fair, but this game sort of gets to have its cake and eat it too. Because once you're eliminated, as long as you skip a turn, you can jump back in. But when you get to the bottom of the deck, you're going to encounter the new meta rule, which is no more extra lives. Once you go through the entire deck all the way through, death becomes permanent. When you get eliminated, that's it. You're out. That way you're not constantly having this cycle of game that's never going to end until something really crazy happens, which in Fluxx, it's pretty much guaranteed to. But with this, you can make sure that you're not going to be playing forever and ever and ever. And it's just in there as a fun time, or you can take it out if you don't mind having those long, crazy games. But it's a fun way to sort of combat that dislike of elimination that some people have. And if you are anything like me, it's going to totally change the way that you play the game. You know, I'm going to show you guys some of the cool keepers that are in here. But I always, whenever I play this game, am trying to collect as many keepers as I can, right? You just want to have them in front of you. That's always the best strategy. But that makes you a target. Suddenly, these danger cards are going to put me in danger. If I have all of my keepers out, it just puts a target on my back. And now people are going to try to eliminate me. As soon as they see these cards, if someone's got that in front of them, that's what you're going to do. You can eliminate everyone else and win by being just the last player standing. Of course, you also have to say Jumanji. Can't forget about that. But yeah, you got to throw your hands up in the air. It's on the card. I don't make the rules. I just follow them, you know?
I've challenged Tom on this one that anyone who really wants to get into it has to do the whole smoldering thing from The Rock and make it look like they're super awesome.
You know, whatever rules you guys want to add to it, you know, that's totally fair. That's one of the things that Fluxx blanks are made for. You can still use those with this deck. Someone else had asked this. They are the same card size. I don't want to open up one of my other ones and get them mixed up. But they're the same card size, same card back. So for those crazy Fluxx fans that do like to mix their decks together and have really, really crazy games, this one is going to be especially crazy. The dangers, I really can't say enough good things about. They really make the game feel not just more dangerous, but more strategic. That's another thing you may have seen. There's some particularly hardcore strategic gamers that don't like the mix of luck and strategy, which is another one of those signatures of Andy's games. You know, it's really anyone's game right up until the end. You can't be so far ahead that you're definitely going to win, which means that by the same token, you can't be so far behind that you want to quit playing this game because there's no way you're going to win. I hate that feeling in a game, and that's something that you will never encounter in a Looney Labs game. So in Jumanji Fluxx, there is a little bit more strategy. So some of those players that were feeling like it didn't matter what they did, which if you ask me is crazy, but this game really takes that up a notch. Your choices are definitely going to matter a lot. One of the fun actions that I want to show you guys, this is a brand new one in the game, is just called Jump Right In. And it just says everyone has to play all of the keepers in their hand. So if you're like me and you're trying to hold on to all that stuff so that no one eliminates you, you're going to be in trouble really quickly. So this is a fun one to play on some of those strategic players that are thinking they can get away with it. Another fun one is the sound of the drums. We always like to come up with some sort of social interaction that we can, doing a silly voice or rewarding players for naming something. So this one is actually a card where you will get to retrieve 2 danger cards from the discard pile as long as you've been drumming on the table the entire time. So if you can do it surreptitiously enough, you can achieve the desired effect of just sort of creeping everybody out if they're not sure why they're feeling so tense and like they might get stampeded or something. That's really the goal. And it's a fun one because even if you know that's why someone's drumming on the table, there's probably not a lot you can do about it. Now you just know that your fate is going to be sealed as soon as it gets back around to their turn. Or you can elect not to do that and you just get sort of a weaker version of that power when you play that card. But there's stuff in here. I don't know if you guys know this. This is something I learned that before it was the movie with The Rock, and of course it was the movie with Robin Williams, it was an illustrated children's book. So the Jumanji card game has stuff from not just, the new movies we got to see, Dr. Smolder Bravestone and Alan Parrish, of course, but there's stuff in here from the storybook as well, things that were less familiar to me. This goal is one of the ones from the storybook using some of the artifacts that they encounter in Jumanji in the storybook. Would you sort of see them adapt a little bit? I'm wondering if they're going to do some more cool stuff like that in the new movie, which, by the way, is coming out in December.
Very cool.
Make sure that you guys are prepared, not just for the holidays, but for the people looking specifically for Jumanji games. I remember when the last Jumanji movie came out, there was merch for it, but there was maybe one game, and I think that was actually after the movie wasn't in theaters anymore. And I had people coming in asking me like, oh, so, it's based on like a board game. You guys have the board game, right? I want to come and spend money in your store for this game that I definitely expect you to have. And now you can point them to Jumanji Fluxx. It's basically Jumanji, the card game. Even if they've never heard of Fluxx before, this is a great way, to get them into Fluxx or anyone into gaming at all. And with the danger cards, it makes it feel like Jumanji. I was never on the edge of my seat playing the Jumanji board game where you're just sort of rolling dice, moving around a board. But with this, if I can get eliminated or I'm just about to win and then something goes completely wrong, that's dangerous. That feels like Jumanji,
So Norman had a really good question. He said that the danger mechanic seems like a really good addition. Does Looney Labs have any additional thoughts about making danger packs for other versions of Fluxx?
We haven't talked about doing anything like that yet. This is a mechanic that Andy has sort of been thinking about for a long time, and it just so happened that this was the perfect time to use it, right? This is perfect for Jumanji. Let's introduce it here. I think, I'm hoping that we'll see it pop up in other games when the theme is appropriate. But right now we don't have any plans to retroactively add it to other games like we did Creepers for some of them. Right. This one's a little bit more powerful, and I think we want to, at least for now, it's the cool new thing about Jumanji. So I don't think we'll be applying it to other games. But that being said, it's something that you and your fans can always add yourselves to the game. Like I said, the Fluxx blanks packs, they don't have danger cards, but you could use creepers or surprises that are in there in order to do the same thing as some of these danger cards if you think that it's something that should go into your game at home. People sort of homebrew stuff like that for Fluxx all the time, and there's a lot of really good creative additions out there for that. And so this is certainly something that fans can add in themselves. And we always like hearing ideas like that from fans and from retailers, of course, as well. So if you don't follow us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook and send us a message, because we love hearing cool stuff like that. When we went and did some playtest recently, someone was telling me about a cool sort of anti-goal that they made in Pirate that was the alcohol, the rum, the monkey, and the gunpowder, which if you have all 3 of those, everything's going to go bad. And so like everyone loses. And I'm like, that's really cool. I like that idea.
Cool. And for anyone who wasn't here at the beginning of the conversation, Tom and I were talking a little bit about the craziest ideas for a Fluxx IP on there. So if anyone has a crazy idea that you'd like to at least throw Looney Labs' way, no guarantees, of course, and promises made, but be happy to put that into the chat as well. I throw out the idea of Fast and the Furious Fluxx and WWE Fluxx. So that probably tells everybody way too much about me than they ever want to know.
No, I'm sure it'll be fine, Scott.
I'm sure, yeah.
No
My
one will
career's been great so far. It won't fall off that right now.
Well, I did promise you guys I would show you off this coin a little bit. It's kind of hard to see, but it's really cool. It's holographic, and it's a nice chip. It's definitely a legit poker chip, but you can't tell the weight that it's got to it, but it's exactly like you'd think a poker chip would be. It doesn't feel cheap and plastic. It's got a nice weight to it. I'm really a sucker for anything that's holographic too, so this was something I was really, really excited about. I told you we weren't going to talk about it too much, but I do have Marvel Fluxx with me. It does have this super cool Captain America coin, which is holographic, and that was a blast. I was angling for Spider-Man to be on the front, but Captain America's shield kind of made a lot more sense, so that's okay. Maybe in the future, that's fine. But these tokens are great. We've done some coins like this for other games before. This one involves a pass the coin rule, which you may have seen with those promos, where it just helps you keep track of whose turn it is. And if you forget to pass the coin at the end of your turn, you have to discard a card. You're penalized for that. And it's also great. This is something that's in Drinking Fluxx, for example. It's a card instead of a coin that just says, it's my turn, pass it around. So that, in that game, if you're drinking and you have trouble remembering whose turn it is, you can remember. So in case you may have that problem in any other game for any other reason, I can't imagine why, these coins are great for that. If you're ever been the person at the table that's saying, no, it's your turn. Okay, is that the end of your turn? It's, this is how you train your players to do that. And it's just fun, collectible. You can use it for all kinds of stuff like that. Does anyone else have any other questions about Jumanji Fluxx? We're going to talk a little bit about Robot next, but if anyone...
There haven't been any additional that came in through Jumanji. Just as a reminder, if anyone does have questions, if you're on a PC or a Mac, you can just hover over the video window, and there's a little chat bubble at the bottom, which you can type into the chat window for us. If you're on your mobile, who I've actually been messaged by a couple of people saying that they've done this on their mobile, like on their iPad or on their iPhone, there should be a little chat button in the menu, and you'd be able to do the same thing from there. So we can move on to Are You a Robot? Which, are you a robot?
I am not a robot.
I'm not a robot either.
So we're already playing the game. If you've ever seen us at a show, this is basically how it goes. If you haven't seen Are You a Robot yet, it's a little different from all of our other stuff, especially in its packaging. So I'm going to get to that, but when you see the game, this is what it is. And when you look it up in the GTS system, you'll basically see this image. And the important things about it are on the front of the package. It says right down here, 2 players, 2 minutes, $2. And that's this game. It is a social deduction game that you can play with 2 or 3 players right out of the pack. It's just a tiny little pack. It's got, the game itself consists of 3 cards and a rule card. And they are just like, you are a human, and you are a robot. So when you're playing this with 2 or 3 players, you just shuffle those up and then you pass them out. If Scott and I are playing, it would look a lot like that. I'm not a robot. And of course you're going to claim that you're not a robot, but it's up to us to determine who the robot might be, if any. In a 2-player game, it's possible that we're both human, and there's no turns, there's no rules. It's just us talking about whatever we think we need to talk about in order to determine if they are in fact a human or a robot. Now, if I think that Scott is a robot and I'm a human, then I'm going to point at him and I'm going to say zap, and I'm going to zap him with my ray gun. If he is a robot, then I have won. I've destroyed the robots taking over humanity, and humanity has been successful. If I'm a robot, I can't shoot, actually. I have to convince the humans to shoot each other. And if I am human and I shoot Scott, and he's also human, then we all lose. Humanity has gone down the tubes, and the robots have won because they've been able to deceive us into turning on each other. So the 3-person game works very much the same. You're trying to just figure out, in that one, in fact, someone is a robot. So now you have to determine who's going to shoot whom. And anyone that is sort of hesitant to shoot very well might be a robot, since they are not, programmed with any firearms. So they have no violent means at their disposal. All they can do is pretend to be a human and sow discord, which is one of the things I like to do in pretty much any game that I play, is just sow discord. And that's this game. It's a $2 game. You can play with 2 to 3 players. But there's more to the game. if you have multiple packs of this, you can play with more and more people. So in that version of the game, it becomes more like a werewolf style game. And for those of you who might be missing our game, Are You Werewolf, which recently went out of print, this is a fun way to show off our new social deduction game. In the extended version, if you're playing with more than I think four people, then there are sort of night phases where once someone is shot, then everyone will sort of close their eyes again, and that player becomes a sort of narrator that will then determine if everyone is going to stay human or become a robot. And so as the game goes on, it's trickier and trickier to determine who your allies are. Someone that you may have trusted before may now have become a robot. And we actually have a really cool video on our website and on our YouTube that you can see of this game in action as it sort of pairs down and things get trickier and trickier every time. And I am a huge fan of those large social deduction games. I like games that can let you play with, 5, 8, 10, 12 people. And this is definitely one of those games. When you purchase these from GTS, you are actually going to be getting a pack of these games. It's, again, a little bit hard to see, but it looks like this. It's the same thing. It's shrink wrapped, 5 copies of these with these rules in the back. So when you look up Are You a Robot, you're going to see it's Are You a Robot bundle. And that's because it's this guy with the 5 packs in there. And they're all together with the rules. So the idea behind this is to give you guys as retailers the option of how to sell this game. We wanted you to have access to this really cool $2 game. We were selling this at Gen Con. We sold a bunch of them, like hundreds of them. And a lot of people were buying, more than one pack. They want to play it with their group. So you have the option when you buy the bundle of opening this up and selling them as individual $2 games. And, or I really recommend doing both, right? You have some small packs. Like this is, again, something you can put up front as a $2 add-on. It's a really easy sell. And you can also sell it as the bundle. If you just put a price tag on this and sell it by itself, it's a 10-player game for $10. And like if I'm your target audience and I like those, bigger games, I would probably be going after the bundle. But having the option of doing both is the flexibility that we wanted to give you guys. You can even open up a pack and sell, 3 of them and keep the other 2 as demo copies. So you can do a little, it's really easy to just shuffle up these cards and hand them out to a customer and say, okay, if you think I'm a robot, you can shoot me. Unless you're a robot, you can't shoot anyone. And if we're both human and we both agree that we're human, we can win peacefully by shaking each other's hand. And if we're both human, we win. But if one of you is a robot, when you shake hands, you don't let go. The iron grip of robots is just gonna, lead us down the path. So that's a really fun moment to watch happen too when someone finally agrees, okay, no, I trust you. Clearly we're both human. So let's shake on it. And then that person doesn't let go. And you realize that they've tricked you the whole time. So not that that's ever happened to me because I'm great at these games.
Derek had a really good question. And I think I know the answer, but I just want to check with you first. He says, are the packs either hole punched or hand tagged for display? I think the answer is no, but I know I have seen some retailers who have like little tags they get from Uline that they put on the back of the 5-pack and then have those hanging up. I actually saw one retailer who had a peg of the 5-packs and then a peg of the individual packs. So if people wanted to buy the 5-pack and 2 more or anything like that, they could do that.
That's actually a really good way of doing it. I would recommend doing that if you can, so you can show off both versions of it. But it is a little hard to see, but in the bundle, they are hole punched.
Oh, perfect.
When you open them up, you can have, so this, you'd have to open up the bundle in order to peg them. But you could put one of those Uline tags on here and leave it in the bundle if you wanted to. Or, some places I think just have a sign that says, if you get 5 of them, we'll give you the rules. But the rules are something you can print out online also. They're included in this bundle. But if you have someone that buys, 1 or 2 of these and then comes back the next week and buys a few more and they want to do the extended game, that's on our website. And it's in here. It says, go to this URL and you can download the rules for the extended version. So that's something that's always available. But the version that you guys are going to get, they are pegged. They have a little hole that you can use on the top there. So no worries about that. We do think about our retailers when we're designing our packaging. We want to make sure that they are something that you can display. Otherwise, how are you going to sell it? I am always keeping that perspective in line when we're thinking about design, especially with this product, because it's very different, not just gameplay wise, but sort of packaging wise. And so part of what I'm hoping to do is help, make sense of it for you guys. So I noticed, like, when you look at that description, you say, I'm not 100% sure what this is, which means I'm not going to order it. But now you guys know what it is. And this is one of the games that's going to be on sale for this webinar attendance. So if you guys have been wondering what the deal is with the robot, now you know, and you can try it out for yourself. It's a lot of fun. It's really, really easy to play. And that 2 to 3 player social deduction game is a niche that hasn't really been, I mean, if you've ever played any of these sorts of games, the way that they work, it's pretty much impossible to play it with 2 or usually even 3 players. And Andy found a way to do it, and we wanted to share this amazing little $2 product with you in a way that we can also get it through distribution. So try it out. I think you'll love it. Your fans will love it. It's a great little thing that you can add on to anything. Talk about stocking stuffers too. I mean, $2 game,
Yeah.
A few of them. I have a lot of siblings. This is the kind of thing you could put one in everybody's stocking, and then you have a bunch of individual games or one big game that you can play, around the Christmas tree or whatever. So we wanted to make it flexible for you guys. So that's why we have it packaged that way. That's why the bundle description tries to explain this in its description. But if it didn't make sense, I hope it's a little bit clearer now. Once you can actually see the difference, it makes a lot more sense.
So you brought up a good point, and I actually failed to mention this at the beginning of the webinar, but it's good to bring up right now. So as with most of our webinars, we do have a financial offer for all the retailers. So between this Monday, which is September 30th, 2019, and next Monday, which is October 7th, which, oh my God, where did the year go? But between the 30th and the 7th, you're going to be able to get 52% off MSRP pricing. So depending on which games you're looking at bringing in, or both the games, you can do Jumanji Fluxx, or you can do Are You a Robot at 52% off SRP, which gives you a little bit extra margin for the holiday times, which is great. And like Tom had said, just great opportunities for stocking stuffers for these. But they also sell very well outside of holiday season as well. One of the things you brought up, Tom, which I wanted to kind of touch on for a quick second. We tend to have an overarching discussion on a lot of our webinars about brands first and games second, and about how, from a retailer's perspective, you are so challenged already with the glut of games and so many different options to choose from. My experience from talking to a lot of retailers is that they have actually shifted towards a curation mode more than a expansion mode, because they are looking at what are the things that are really going to sell in my community? What are the things my community is looking for? And it's very hard to do that when you're chasing a game-by-game basis. It's much easier when you look at the brands that are established. And how many years has Looney Labs been in business now?
23 something. I mean,
23. That's as old as my daughter.
Fluxx is 23 years old. Looney Labs has been around even longer than that. The Pyramids
Yeah, that's right. The Pyramid Arcade. Yeah, originally.
Closer to 30. I don't think it's yet, but it's.
And the whole time, Kristen and Andy have been extremely connected to retailers. They do a great job of being visible, being available. They're wonderful to connect with at shows. And the demo program is a great example of things that they do to make sure that retailers have the supplies and have the tools they need. The actions of doing things like the back of the box demos, where you can just flip it over and show everybody really quickly. Tom made a comment earlier, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen retailers flip over the back of a box and it's a wall of text. And there's no way to really envision that from a consumer standpoint. Or worse, it's a picture that has nothing to do with the game, right? It has like a character or something like that. So having the tools at your disposal is a really, really big advantage as well. So Looney Labs has been one of our better partners over the years, and it's something that I think whether you're an established store, it's really easy to carry, or if you're a new store and just looking for new products to bring in, it's a really, really easy sell, either in that kind of small games area or in that POP displays near the front. So Looney Labs is definitely one of the brands that, when we think about longevity, when we think about consistency, which is probably the hardest thing in the industry is consistency, this is a brand that definitely falls into that, with all the different options just from Fluxx, but then, like you said, between Time Breaker, Are You a Robot, so many other options as well outside of that. So it's a really well-rounded catalog. Easy for me to say.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of stuff out there, but it's, if any of you retailers are the ones that have, a few of our games, but not some of the newer ones, try them out. Like, I think you'll be surprised, stuff like, I mean, Monty Python Fluxx is still one of our most popular games, and I think it's partly because it's just been out forever. I mean, Zombie Fluxx and Star Flux are also, they're not as popular as like new releases, but they are steady. And I think that's because those are things that people have had on their shelves forever. You know, it sells, you know, you're going to keep restocking it. And so we just want you guys to have that faith in our newer titles as well, maybe even some of our non-Flux titles if you only carry Flux. The games definitely help sell each other. And before I forget, I want to go back to some of those other tools Scott mentioned. We have a lot of them that we've talked about, but there's one more that I just want to tell you about. If you go on our website, looneylabs.com/retailers, that's your website. That retailer landing page has tons of links for all kinds of useful stuff. You can download our whole catalog so you can see what's going on in there. One of the other things that's on there is a link for marketing images. Everything that we use to promote the games goes on there. If you want to see some of the ads that we did for DS9 Flux, or some of the cool art that we used for Timebreaker, or we just added a whole section of TV still screens. If you have a TV in your game room or behind your counter or somewhere where you're using it as a timer, or you're just putting stuff on in the background for the meantime, you can download these still screens and play them like a slideshow. And it's got one for every single game that is in print right now. Everything that I've talked about and way more, everything has a promotional image. So if you don't have a TV, you can still use them as social media images, which there's tons and tons more of for all these other games. Anything, if you're ever looking for assets like that to promote any of our games, you'll find that and a lot of other cool stuff on looneylabs.com/retailers. You can also sign up for our store locator on there, sign up for our newsletter so you make sure you know what's going on from us. And it's tons of useful stuff. Every time I talk to retailers about it, there's people that haven't heard of it before, and there's a lot of creative things people have done with it. And that's something that we make available to you guys all the time. It's just there as a resource. So please use it. We're always updating it. And, if there's ever anything you have trouble finding, or you're wondering if, we have something like that, you can also email me as well. You can email me at tom@looneylabs.com or retailers@looneylabs.com. They both will get to me, whichever one's easier to remember. Hopefully they're both pretty easy to remember. But I'm here to help you guys out as the retailer liaison. Like I said, I was a retailer before this, so I know a lot of those struggles. So if there's ever anything just feedback you guys want to provide, we want to listen. Like Scott said, Chris and Andy have been doing this a long time, and we've always kept in mind our retailers. Whenever we are talking about any decision, we worry about how it's going to affect you guys, how you guys will respond to it. We care about supporting all of our brick and mortar retailers as much as possible.
That's awesome. Yeah, I put the looneylabs.com/retailers into the chat, and put your emails in there as well. I'll make sure to put that into the recording as well when we put this onto YouTube. That way retailers can find the retailer resources as well, which is great. Perfect. Awesome. It does not look like there's any more questions, which is perfect timing because we're about 8 minutes under, so we can give everybody a couple minutes of their day back. But Tom, thank you so much. This has been really good discussion. I learned something. I didn't know that Jumanji had the exclusive cards in it, which is awesome. So it's always good to be both entertained and enlightened. But we really do appreciate all you do for our retailers, and appreciate you consistently making great games, which is awesome. So again, as a reminder for all the retailers, if you do order Jumanji or Are You a Robot before October 7th, not September 7th, before October 7th, you'll be able to get 52% off MSRP pricing. There's a question. Steven had a question. The link comes up as a forbidden site for looneylabs.com/retailers. I will make sure to get the right one and make sure to get that over to you guys so everyone's got that. So
yep, it's missing the E in Looney. That's all.
Oh, I did. I spelled it wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, I spelled Looney Labs, not Looney Labs. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, it's
you can see it's not quite right, but yes, that's all it takes. It will take you to the right one that way.
Retailer. There we go. Okay, so I just put it back in there for you, Steven. Sorry about that. Thankfully, it didn't send you anywhere bad, which is good. So awesome. Tom, again, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Give our best to Andy and Kristen and the entire team over there. And retailers, thank you also. I know it's always busy, especially the week of a Magic pre-release. Really do appreciate everybody taking the time to come and join us to talk about this. If anyone does have any additional questions like we talked about, you can reach Tom at looney-labs.com. You can also reach me at smorris@gtsdistribution.com. And again, if you do look for any demos or anything for any of the games, either we've talked about today or any of the other Looney Lab games, definitely let your GTS sales rep know. They'll be able to hook you up and get that out to you. And hopefully have a great holiday season with some really good games. So awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful week in your stores. Take care.